What's great about the Spanish opening is that, well, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, so they feel like playing the Italians, the Scotches, Four Knights, King's Gambits, all that sort of thing, but nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. It doesn't just have a strong strategic foundation, making people think, oh, he's playing the Spanish Royal Pairs, he must have a Grandmaster understanding, but also it's full of sharp tactical tricks, so the opponent has to be both a tactical player and a positional player. Otherwise, the Spanish is going to knock them dead, boys. Illingworth Chess, the best to improve your chess. What's up, guys? It's GMX here, and we're going to learn what are the top chess openings for white. You know, I could do a little countdown, but I know how to count. Like, I start at 3, end up at 5, and go to 42. So let's just share the top chess openings. So the first one, as you've probably guessed, is the Spanish, but before we get into Spanish, what about the Sicilian? What's the top opening to play against Sicilian? And the top chess opening is knight f3 and going for the open Sicilian. And what's beautiful about the open Sicilian is that you're ripping open that center, getting that extra space in the center, getting that lead in development. And what if they use a top chess opening against us? What happens when the two top chess openings clash head on and they play the knight off with a6? Well, my top answer to their top opening to our top opening is to top them all with bishop to e3. It's known as the English attack. We go f3, we castle long, we charge those pawns with g4, g5, and bam, the dirt is gone. So that's a pretty good top chess opening. And of course, one thing to keep in mind with these top chess openings is that you can't have one top chess opening necessarily, because the opponent can do different things as well, so you have to then try to top their top. So let's see how to do it. Well, against e5, well, the top chess opening is the Spanish. And not just any old Spanish. There are a lot of ways you can play the Spanish to top the opponent. Let's say, for example, I play Berlin, try to just be all solid, make a forced draw, follow Hikaru Nakamura at every single move of the game. Well, we can play the move d3. That avoids their silly little Berlin thing. And then bishop c5, I think the top chess opening is bishop c6. And then knight d2, as I already covered in a video on how to beat the Berlin. See the suggestion up top. And also, if they do play a6, there are so many ways you can play the Spanish to appeal to you. If you like to play boring chess and you want to channel the ghost of Bobby Fischer, there's bishop c6. Or you can keep the tension with bishop a4. You can either defend the pawn with d3, or if you're a big man, you can castle and meet bishop e7 with rook e4. Here's what the big boys do. Go c3, get in d4, and you're laughing. So that's a top chess opening for white, the Spanish. And, well, if you want to try to be like a second top, you can go for the Italian. But, yeah, that's not the way to get your big man pants on. Now, against things like the French or the Caracan, yeah, just d4, knight c3. You know, this is top chess opening. And, okay, I could talk more about e4, but I think you guys get the idea that it doesn't really make sense to share. You know, what is the top chess opening against the St. George defense? Tony Miles beat Karpov, so I have no hope at all against such a powerful, quiet move. Also, apparently refutes the bomb cloud, so there is that, I guess. But, well, seriously, what about other top openings for white? You know, surely e4 is not just simply the best by test according to Bobby Fischer. No, Fischer, you were wrong. Fischer, you were wrong. You didn't understand chess the way these top Indians do. I know you had like 190 IQ, but I mean, these Indians, like, they're like in the, you know, quadruple digits IQ. I mean, you can't mess with that. And what the Indians say is they say that the best move for white at a very, very high depth 79, is the move d4. So why d4? Well, the thing about d4 is that there are a lot of different ways you can play a top chess opening with d4. The one I find works best at the club level, you know, you guys are maybe rated like 1600 up to 2200. You're going to find that the Catalan is going to be the top opening for you. But you can play g3. You know, no more Nimzo Indian because we don't have a knight on c3 to pin. Because remember, the Nimzo Indian is a top chess opening for black. So when they want to play a top chess opening on us, we can play a move to avoid their top chess opening, the anti-Nimzo. That's what the Catalan is. Up d5, bishop b2. Got that beautiful bishop down that long diagonal. Your next move's knight f3 and castles are so easy to play, you can almost pre-move them at this point. And yeah, life is pretty good. I mean, you get your Catalan bishop, and you could do it against g6 as well. You know, bye-bye King's Indian, you can still play Catalan. You can also play Catalan against other things. Unfortunately, you can't really play the Catalan so easily against the Slav. But in the top chess opening against the Slav is to play knight f3, knight f6, and now the move knight c3. And the reason it's a top chess opening is that if black doesn't play a semi-Slav e6, white simply gets an advantage out of the opening, so that's pretty cool. And then there are two top chess systems. You can either go bishop g5. For those of you who like to study like 100 moves of opening theory, who want to say, I know it better than your opponents, who know that most of their opponents are going to play dumb moves like bishop e7, well, it's probably going to be the opening for you guys. But if you want something which is a bit less burning your bridges, you can play the move e3 and play something like the anti-Nimzo. Notice why I'd say it's the top chess answer to the semi-Slav, where you go bishop to d3, you castle, you push e4 at some moment. I mean, you're laughing at this point. You know, definitely black can... One thing to keep in mind with these top chess openings is that black does finally have a good game if they find all of the best moves that are going to manage to equalize. But when you smash that like button, it maximizes your chance of getting an advantage in practice. The practice is what matters, not the theory here. And also make sure to comment below with what top chess opening you would play of the ones I mentioned here. Which one's going to be your new weapon against your opponents. Now, of course, there are things they can do as well. Like if, for example, you want to be able to deal the semi-Slav. Because semi-Slav is a top chess opening for black. So one way to top it is to avoid it. Where we go e3, and now if you want to try and play your semi-Slav of e6, well, I don't have to put my knight on c3. I can put my knight on d2. I can go b3, do a little fancy stuff with the fianchetto, and claim that I've just got a small advantage because your semi-Slav isn't as good when I haven't put my knight on c3 already. So I got you there, big boy. In any case, there also are other things you can play, like you're not forced to play a fianchetto. Now, if you want to be really world-class, then you can play the London system and just play your moves without thinking, like just play with your eyes closed, e3, c3, 92, bishop d3, h3, castles, 95. Open your eyes like, oh, I still have a playable position. Magic. But okay, seriously, the London, I wouldn't say it's an absolute top chess opening for white. It's probably a top system opening, but even then I'd rank the Catalan higher. Instead of a real top chess opening is to play the move knight to f3. This is where we're really flexible and we say, well, if d5, I can put my knight on c3, and I keep the option of playing bishop g5 or bishop to f4. So bishop e7, a top chess opening against the QGD, is the Blackburn variation with bishop f4 and e3. That gives your bishop a really nice long diagonal. Or if they play something like Ragozin bishop b4, then the top chess system is to go bishop g5 and pin their knight back. They'll have to get some nice pressure. You can take d5 and live the good life from there. So, and also if they do play King's Indian, like what's a top chess opening against King's Indian or against Grunfeld? Okay, I mentioned the Catalan approach is a decent one, but if you want the real top system, the real top system is to play knight c3. And if they go Grunfeld, the top system to play there. Keep saying top all over and over again. You know, who's doing a count? Like, you know, someone here, like, get that counter for, like, how many times I say top and put in the comments how many times I said the word. So now, the answer, the top reply to Grunfeld is cd5, going e4. We're not going to play these rubbish shortcuts like these other GMs. We're going to play big man mainline openings. And now there are two top systems. The first top system, if you are slave to the engine, if you're just going to say, whatever my computer overlord tells me, that's the move I'm going to play. Well, then you're probably going to play like bishop to e3, c5, and maybe some knight f3, some queen e2, some rook c1 business. This is setup actually I won loads and loads of games with in my chess career early on as a junior. I mean, it was just so funny, like letting him, when they let you get the pawn at d5, get the pawn to c4, and just completely dominate the center. You imagine how my opponent just gave it to me, like notice that they weren't even trying anymore. But there's also the question of what about if we want to play like the other top system. Now, if you're someone who's like a big history buff and you want to play like those old world champions like, you know, Steinitz, Lasker, Capablanca, Aliakin, Uwe. Oh, I nearly forgot Max Uwe. But anyway, the move bishop c4 and going knight 2, this is the other top system. And it's one that actually has been recently revitalized by AlphaZero, when random positions where I was playing h4, h5 and just winning games. It's too deep for me to explain here, but you guys can figure it out by going to one of my blog posts on chess.com. I guess I'll link it in the description below. In any case, also, if they play King's Indian, well, what's a top system against that? Now, you guys are probably going to think, oh yeah, I'm going to follow what Kramnik said, knight f3, bishop 2, castles, bayonet, beat Kasparov. But you would be wrong. There's actually a better system that the computer has found. And that is to play h3, castles, and after bishop e3, white's simply better. The idea is that you're stopping this c5 from having much sting, because our bishop's already dealing with it. And if e5, we just go d5, we charge the pawn storm on the king. They're not really getting in f5, but without f5, they're never going to mate our king. And yeah, strategically just have an advantage. You know, when I was doing my course on the King's Indian for black, I was honest and I said, this line's a pain in the neck. I don't have a miracle weapon. So yeah, good luck. You know, fend for yourselves, little kiddies. So yeah, this is basically the top system against the King's Indian, and definitely if you're playing to 700 plus level, well, it's going to give you a lot of full points and will ensure you feed your family the way that Tigran Petrosian managed to when facing King's Indian. So yeah, anything else? Like, what about other top chess openings for white? Well, I have one more top chess opening for you, and this is where we play d4, but we don't start with d4. We play to move knight to f3. This is a Kramnik move order, and the idea is that we're going to basically transpose to d4, but we're going to avoid some other systems along the way. So if they go d5, we say, yeah, whatever, I'll go d4 and transpose back to my d4 openings with a knight on f3, c4, knight c3, all that good juicy stuff. But if they play knight f6, then we get a little tricky with the move order. We play to move c4, and we kind of avoid the Nimzo and we avoid the Grunfeld. So if they go g6, we play to move knight c3, because if bishop g7, e4, and we're transposing back to the good old King's Indian defense, knight on f3, which is one of the better lines for white. Or if they do play d5, well, when they don't have the pawn on d4, it's much harder to get their usual Grunfeld pressure with bishop g7 and c5. So you get some extra options, moves like queen b3 to kick the knight around, even moves like h4 and just going for the hack attack are also kind of quite trendy and been a bit annoying for black in some recent games. This is something that makes Grunfeld players tear their hair like, no, I just want you to play d4, give me my beloved pet Grunfeld so I can channel in the spirit of Kasparov, the love child of Kasparov, MVL, Grishuk, Nepomniachtchi, Svidler, Grunfeld, whoever else I forgot that plays the Grunfeld because too many of the top GMs play it. In any case, that's sort of a way to can avoid the Grunfeld, which is pretty cool. But if they go e6, you can play to move knight c3. And if they go d5, just go d4 and transpose back to your usual, like d4, Queen's Gambit, breakfast, the opening of champions. Say breakfast of champions, that's what I say about Weet-Bix in Australia. So it's like the Weet-Bix opening of chess. But if they go bishop b4, it's nowhere near as good as the usual Nimzo, because we have not pushed the pawn to d4. That means this is not a real pin. And we can play queen c2, get that bishop pair advantage, castles a3. And by not playing d4, we keep that beautiful long diagonal open for our unopposed bishop. Our structure's more flexible and white's just a little bit better. So there you are. We covered a lot of different top openings. We covered the Spanish, we covered the open Sicilian, we covered like the Catalan setup. We covered some good systems against King's Indian, Grunfeld, Slav, semi-Slav, and even a tricky move order to avoid the Nimzo and Grunfeld, because those are two of the top chess openings for black, so it's good to know how to avoid them as well as what to play against them. So guys, do make sure to smash that like button. It really helps me to, well, it helps me out a lot, helps the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one so that you can keep playing those top chess openings like a grandmaster. I'm going to see you guys in the next chess video. Until then, take care. Illingworth Chess, the best to improve your chess.